After my pleasant surprise with Flying Shark, I had high hopes for its sequel, Fire Shark, which was originally released in 1989. Fire Shark is a military-themed, vertical-scrolling shoot-'em-up reminiscent of 1942, where players take control of a biplane through 10 increasingly difficult levels in order to defeat an assortment of enemy forces like tanks, battleships, kamikaze monoplanes, and artillery from the mysterious Strange Fleet Armada. This is the main objective of the game. The game plays very much like its predecessor, as players control their craft over a constantly scrolling background, and the scenery never stops moving until an airport is reached. Players have two weapons at their disposal: the standard shot that travels a max distance of half the screen's height, and bombs capable of obliterating any enemy caught within its blast radius. So the game is less of an evolution and more of a slight upgrade when compared to its predecessor Flying Shark. And the question for me is, did the small changes improve the game? And the answer to that question is no. Well, not for me anyway. In terms of gameplay, it's pretty much the same, albeit with some subtle changes to the weaponry, which is fine. But it's the manner in which the power-ups appear and just float about for ages until they get picked up or vanish that I find very annoying. Let me explain. My favourite weapon in this game is a flamethrower. I mean, who doesn't like flamethrowers? So when I get it, I have to avoid the other power-ups, the blue and the green ones, which doesn't sound like a big hassle, but when you are flying all over the screen trying to avoid enemy fire, it just gives you one more obstacle to avoid now, and you shouldn't have to. I mean, the game is plenty difficult enough, and that's with a cheat for full power-ups as well. I will give Toaplan credit, they certainly know how to pack a challenge into a game, that's for sure. The waves of enemies at times is relentless, and so is the enemy fire. It seems like there is always something taking a shot at you, and again, the enemy fire in this game isn't like other games of this type. The enemy shots seem to move closer towards you with each wave, so you can't just find a quiet bit of the screen and blast away. You are always moving about. But regardless of that, it's about 100 times better than 1942, I reckon. And just like other Toaplan games, the game just loops constantly without an end in sight, it would seem. But the one thing in sight of the player is the graphics, which seem to be less detailed than its predecessor, and that is unusual for a game that was released at a later date and yet have worse visuals from a game released several years before it. The backdrops are bland and repetitive, the landscapes have very little texturing to them, and the enemy crafts are all less detailed as well. I'm not quite sure what happened to the visual team at Toaplan, but this game has definitely regressed in the graphic department. The sound effects are fine, pretty much just the same as Flying Shark, but the music is awful. The tunes are really grating on my eardrums after a while, and they just all sound so repetitive. I never seen this game in an arcade back in my day, but for 1989, it looked like it should have been around in 1985. After the awesome Flying Shark, I thought I was going to like pretty much most of the Toaplan games, but they're a real hit and miss developer for my money. I can't see myself playing this an awful lot in the future. It was ported over to the Megadrive though, and so maybe it could be a repeat of Truxton, an arcade port that was actually better to play on home console. In 1990, Toaplan released Fire Shark onto the Megadrive, and just like Truxton, this port has done a very good job of recreating the arcade experience. In fact, just like Truxton, this version is better than the arcade version. The visuals are just the same bland affair from the arcade, but on the Megadrive they appear to be ever so slightly larger, I think, making it less difficult to see enemy fire on screen. And also, the larger sprite makes it look like some of the tanks have this smiley "have a nice day" face on them as well. The larger visuals also help show some humour in the game. At some levels, you see sharks swimming in the water, and then when the beach comes into sight, the little guys on the beach run away. They also mess up the formation at the landing strip, which is a neat little touch. The sound has been faithfully reproduced from the arcade as well. That is to say, it's pretty average across the board. But what makes this game a good port? I had way more fun playing this in the Megadrive than I did in the arcade, and I'm not quite sure why that is. I still don't think I would have bought this game had I seen it back in the day or anything, but if a mate had it, I would probably have asked for a loan of it. I think this and Truxton are good at showing what the Megadrive was capable of as well in its early life, and that was taking arcade ports and making them good games to play at home. Truxton, Fire Shark, Golden Axe, Super Hang-On, these are all arcade ports that offered something extra to the player to make it a worthwhile purchase. My view on Fire Shark is that it's a pretty average arcade game, but if you want a version to play, then go for the Megadrive one, as it's not a terrible game. There are worse ones to play, believe me. And that was my look at Fire Shark. If you like this video, then please do give me a sub and a thumbs up, or maybe even a comment or two below about your memories of Fire Shark on any format. And a massive thank you to all of those who have subscribed and commented on my channel. Your feedback and support really does go a long way in helping the channel grow, and I do appreciate all of you, so it's a massive thank you from me. And that's all from me, folks. Thanks for watching.